Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. This is week 8, and I'm going to go through every single matchup. I'm also going to go through these in the short form like I've done before, so it'll be up to you to pause and look at any relevant information that's important to you. I will try to highlight a few pieces, but I'm just going to run through them pretty quickly. Now, looking into the Jets, going to the Bengals, where the Bengals are favored on the money line with a spread of 5.5 and a total line of 44.5. And once again, to pick out some of the notable rankings, you have the Jets pretty poor on both stopping their opponents from scoring and scoring for themselves. They are the worst team in the league for passing, but they do stop the pass pretty well. Decent at rushing, also not as good at stopping the rush. Good at stopping tight ends, don't utilize their tight ends. For Cincinnati, you have the worst team, almost the worst team in the league at stopping their opponents from scoring, and very bad at scoring themselves. They are pretty bad at stopping the pass and the rush, and they're the worst in the league at stopping tight ends. They're also the worst in the league at rushing, and pretty below par on everything else. Moving over to these averages if you need them for the team. Just to note the largest here with that allowed passing rank, allowing 265 average passing yards per game. Your quarterbacks in this matchup are Justin Fields and Joe Flacco, with Justin Fields getting 95.5 total fantasy points this season, averaging 15.9 per game. Joe Flacco having 70.6 total fantasy points this season, averaging 11.7. Fields has no interceptions this season, but has lost a fumble due to a sack and lost a rushing fumble. Joe Flacco has 6 interceptions this season and has lost 2 fumbles due to a sack. Here's their averages if you need them, as well as their breakdowns. And just seeing how much the quarterbacks impact our rushing game, you have Justin Fields here with 22.9, almost 23% of the carry share, whereas Joe Flacco gets about 6 or 7%. The running backs in this game are Breece Hall and Chase Brown, where Breece Hall gets 78.2 total fantasy points this season for an average of 11.2. Chase Brown has 70.4 total fantasy points this season for an average of 10 points per game. The only turnover between these two comes from Breece Hall on a rushing fumble. And then for your averages and breakdowns, and of course Breece Hall gets the largest share of carries on his team with 54.10%. And Chase Brown, of course, gets his largest share with 62.5% of all the carries on his team. For your top receivers here, you have Garrett Wilson out, so that means Arian Smith takes over the number 1 spot, with Jamar Chase being the other number 1 receiver. Arian Smith has not very much to go off of with only 6.4 total fantasy points this season, averaging just 1 fantasy PPR point per game. Jamar Chase, on the other hand, has almost 150 season total fantasy points, averaging 21.3 per game. The only turnover between the two comes from Jamar Chase on a receiving fumble. And moving everything to their averages. And for the receiving share, Arian Smith gets less than 2% of the total receiving yards, but Jamar Chase over here gets almost 42% of his team's receiving yards. For your second receivers, you have Allen Lazard and T. Higgins, with Allen having 16 total fantasy points this season, averaging 4 per game, and T. Higgins having 73.6 total fantasy points this season, averaging 10.5 per game. And then you have their season totals here, as well as their averages now. And their team breakdown, you have Allen Lazard getting about 3.3% of the team's receiving share, and over here you have T. Higgins with almost 21% of the team's receiving share. And of course, ending with the tight ends with Mason Taylor and Noah Fant. Mason Taylor having 46.8 total fantasy points this season for an average of 6.7 per game. Noah Fant has 45.1 total fantasy points this season for an average of 9 per game. And Noah Fant has the only turnover between the two of them. Here's now the averages and the weekly breakdown. And if we look at their team receiving share, you have Mason Taylor with almost 17% of the team's receiving share, and Noah Fant over here with almost 10% of the team's receiving share. So it'll be interesting. The numbers say that this game should come down to Cincinnati throwing the ball a lot more, with the Jets running the ball a lot more. So we'll see what happens, but that's the way the numbers would lean. So there you have the details for this matchup. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did and you got something out of it, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment on what else you might want to see in the future. Other than that, thank you so much for watching.